And the Ontario Science Advisory Table has just released a brief this morning recommending the province provide more COVID-19 rapid tests. The scientific director of the advisory table, Dr. Peter Juni, joins us this morning. Good morning, and thank you for taking time for us.
Good morning.
So I want to talk about what kind of test you're recommending. These are the rapid antigen tests, and they differ from the PCR. I think a lot of people, myself included, are very confused about which test is which and how do you use each one.
Yeah, no, I can understand that. You know, the PCR tests, they detect genetic material and they need a lab. There's a longer turnaround time and they're more sensitive, meaning they detect more cases. The rapid antigen tests detect some proteins and they're immediately available. It looks a bit like a pregnancy test, to be honest, no? And the point is now we needed to figure out whether they work well enough that they actually just are more beneficial than harmful. You know, if we would roll them out, for instance, in a school, elementary school students, and what we found out when we tried to address all the concerns of various experts is this actually really should work and should be helpful to keep in-person learning going if you don't do it all the time. But Hamilton, for example, is now in an area with their cases per day where it absolutely makes sense to start to use them once a week.
Once a week, okay. And you're using them, you have a threshold that the table set out this morning. So let's talk about if you have 50 cases per million, how many testing or when should testing be done then?
Yeah. So if you, first of all, it's important to, just to remember it's all voluntary, obviously.
Yes.
So you can only offer, and it would be at around 50, this is just a ballpark. It would be once a week. Then you see from modeling that was done previously with assumptions as we have them right now here in the province, that once a week is just fine. And then if you then start to struggle more, like we have it in Windsor, Essex, for example, you would need to do it more often to really still be able to reduce the number of cases in school. The point there is, obviously, it all depends on whether we want to take them up or not as parents, and for the students. If it's only 5% of people who take them up, it won't work.
All right, and this is these tests are specifically for the Delta variant, which is very, very contagious because it shows so many symptoms before you show symptoms. It's in your body before you're symptomatic.
This is true. So first of all, the tests are just for all the variants, and fingers crossed, we hope right now that it also will work for Omicron, but we need some validations for Omicron coming. But the point is, Delta is different than previous variants in that it has a lot of virus circulating in the upper respiratory tract with a high viral load before we get symptomatic. So you're exposed, and after perhaps 48 hours, you already have a high viral load and can be infectious. That also gives Delta the edge over other variants. And in this situation, rapid tests should work actually tremendously well.
So is the table then, in its report this morning, is it recommending more testing then from the province?
We would recommend, or we would advise basically, that we start to use rapid tests as an additional tool in our toolbox. It's an additional lever. And right now, the focus is obviously on elementary schools. Why? Because we can't fully vaccinate kids yet. Luckily, we have started with vaccinating yet, but we just need to bridge this gap. But there could be other options as well, in workplaces, etc. in the future. This is now a first step, addressing just some of the scientific concerns, performance concerns for these tests. And now let's see how it goes. We should not forget, the devil is in the details regarding logistics, the rollout, etc.
Okay, we'll look for more on that. Dr. Peter Juni, thank you for joining us this morning.
Thanks for having me.